evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Frederik Schreuder, and I am the Public Affairs Director for Daniel Clay and the facilitator of this online event. First, I want to welcome our attendees from Tonga and Europe. We greatly appreciate you being with us, as our guests from the UK and the European continent are 5 to 6 or more hours ahead of us, meaning this sun is in the middle of the night for you. And our attendee from Tonga is 18 hours ahead of us. So a warm welcome to you. The topic of this webinar is angels, archangels, and more, a cosmic view. As before, it is being recorded and you will receive a copy of the recording after editing. Some of you have been with us for our earlier Zoom meetings. However, webinars are a bit different in format, whereas meetings are more interactive and you have been able to ask Daniel Clay your questions in person. Such is not the case with the webinar. As we're using webinars primarily for spiritual teachings, this format limits personal interaction with Daniel Clay. Even so, if time allows, Daniel Clay will open the floor for a few questions after his usual prompt. You may proceed as you will. And you may then put your question by using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Please do not use the raise hand feature. Some of you have already sent in your questions via email to me. If you have, however, a specific question that is left unanswered, you may wish to join one of our small Zoom meetings, which we have the third Wednesday of each month. All attendees are currently in listen mode only, and such will remain for the duration of the webinar. Indeed, I will read your questions to Daniel Clay. So with that, I now turn it over to Daniel Clay.
Angels and archangels. We hear a whole lot about these entities. They have been a part of religions and culture and folklore and legends since the beginning of human history. And human history begins way later than humans begin. But why have these entities been so prevalent in our mythologies, in our religions, and what exactly are they? Where did they come from? Who or what created them or creates them? Do they have eternal life, or are they limited to a lifespan? Do they have specific purposes, or are they just generalized beings? Do they perform special functions? Are they the little fat chubby things with bows and arrows that many people think of, or perhaps winged bats with horns? What kind of bodies do angels or archangels or other entities that we might call angels have? There are all kinds of unanswered questions that religions tend to gloss over, and most people, when they study spiritual studies, look at them, but they romanticize them. And, well, angels are treated about like cowboys and Indians are treated in Hollywood. They are very unrealistic if you happen to see them on the screen, and most people's perceptions of them are just as unrealistic as Hollywood's renditions of them. So what exactly is an angel? What kind of an entity is it? Let's just start right there and think of it as intelligence. Now, intelligence has to have some way of doing something to be of any benefit. So intelligence in that respect has to have some kind of a body to be able to produce effects in the physical world of Malkuth, in this world in which our physical bodies live. So then that means that these are intelligences, but what kind of bodies are they in? The Aboriginal peoples have talked about animal spirits and earth spirits, trees and rocks and rivers having spirits and life, intelligence. Is this true? Is this real? Everything has an intelligence. The question now becomes singular or collective? And the answer is yes. Everything has a singular intelligence. Everything has a collective intelligence. Let's veer off topic for a second from angels to humanity. Each one of you has an individual intelligence, but as a nation, you live in a group of people with a collective intelligence. Your body, you think of as your singular intelligence, but each organ in your body has its own intelligence, its own job. And each cell of each organ has its intelligence and is doing its own job. So everything goes continually down, microcosm to microcosm to microcosm, and everything goes up to macrocosm, beyond macrocosm, beyond macrocosm. Now, this applies also to the whole concept of the angelic realm. This is where the idea of archangels comes from. It is the collective consciousness of angels, the oversoul of the angelic in one particular facet. And yet there are different types of angelic beings. So you could say mineral, and yes, there would be a collective that covers all minerals in a consciousness, but there would be a collective then just to a certain mineral, all perhaps amethyst. And then you would say each crystal, each piece has its own consciousness, its own energy. Would you call that angelic? Perhaps, but most people wouldn't. However, you are looking at an intelligence. Now, when we think of angelic intelligences, we tend to think of larger, more powerful intelligences. But you've got to remember, this dribbles all the way down to these small intelligences that we are talking about. And each one of those intelligences is what you would consider an angelic force. Now, that being said, let's first look at what most people think of when they think of angelic forces. They think of spiritual beings or intelligences that can and do occasionally intercede into the actions of humankind. But what is it that actually informs these intelligences? How are these intelligences manufactured? People think of these intelligences as having all been created at the beginning of creation. But while humans are being born, is it reasonable not to think that angels are also being born? And if angels are being born, and we use that term loosely because they are created, how are they created? Well, humans themselves, people just like you, are in large part responsible for the creation of new angelic forces. And we will get to that momentarily. But what about these other forces, the ones that seem to have been with humanity forever? Were they created just bang when everything else came into being? Well, everything else evolved. And if everything else evolved into being, then the angelic forces also had to evolve into being as everything else evolved. Now, that is the primal or original forces. If you will look at the early teachings of Christianity, there was this mention of not worshiping angels. And some people think of that as, oh, the Romans were being told not to worship the little fat cherubs with the bow and arrow. Most people don't stop to think, oh, what was it exactly that people had at that time that they would worship, that they thought about worshiping? Saturn, Mars, Apollo. These were the gods of the people, the angels that interceded. Now, stop and think about this. What were these? These were humanized in the way that they were taught, in the way that people understood them. But all of a sudden you think of how the cycles of astrology play into all of this, and you realize that these angels, these intelligences are the planets, the stars, the heavenly bodies. And they have intelligences that are actually able to influence humanity. And not just minor influences, but major influences that flow forth like rivers and actually change the collective consciousness of nations. So you say, if a nation is born under a certain star or planet, it impacts the lifetime of that nation. What you are saying is that heavenly body, that member of the angelic host, has an influence on the nation. So now we are starting to see that angels don't have necessarily human bodies, but the earth has its own consciousness and is an angelic consciousness. The moon, the sun, and the various planets and every one of the stars. Yes, the stars. Have you not heard of the heavenly host? Who do you think they were speaking of? The old seers, when they would speak of the heavenly host. They knew that everything had a consciousness. There is a reason that they call them the heavenly host and speak of what most people want to call heaven as the kingdom which dwells within each. Now, how is it that these have a consciousness and other things don't? Well, other things do. Remember that little bit about rivers and rocks and trees? The Aboriginal peoples of all of the world realized that areas had a consciousness, that rivers had consciousness, that mountains had their own consciousness. Even each individual tree. And then they realized that grass as a collective had a consciousness, but that each individual blade of grass had a consciousness. So the Aboriginal people would speak of the bear spirit, or the lion spirit, or the tiger spirit, or the spirit of the eagle. What they were talking about was a limited angelic consciousness. So that also then is angels. But today people think of this in terms of the ancient animalistic gods. No, these were angels. The planets are angels. What else might be angels? And how are these created? Can they be created now? Well, yes, they can. When people focus on a form or modality of worship, they are building energy. But if that energy is imbued with a consciousness, with an intelligence, it becomes an angel. In terms of angels, what we should be speaking of in the true Kabbalistic sense is energies, intelligent energies. Angels are intelligent energies. Humans, when they lay aside their bodies, are often thought of as becoming as angels because we become intelligent energies that are not bound to the limitations of the physical. But truly, even now, you are not bound to the limitation of the physical. What binds you is your belief, because you are not just the body, you are what inhabits the body within and without. And if you have been out of your body, you know that the body is the most limited part of your being, while it is still the part that you can seemingly do things with in Malkuth, in this earthly realm, in this physical realm. But Malkuth is but a shadow of its former glory. For the tripod that you think of as Kether, Shakma, Bina, Oh, these are but three, they were four. From whence do you think Malkuth came, except that it was that which you would often call death? And that is why there is now that which you consider the abyss, that which cannot be crossed. So then, how does mankind create angels? By building energies. Think of this. When the Aboriginal people began to focus and they looked at a bear and they said, oh, the bear has such wonderful qualities. It can hibernate and it is strong and the mother protects her cubs. What happened? They started focusing energy on that consciousness. And they built that consciousness up. They added to it, and they added their consciousness. They added their thoughts, their beliefs to the consciousness of that animal. And that then blended to make a very powerful angelic force. So then, if an Aboriginal person would say that they wanted to be protected by the energy of the bear, or they wished to have the bear spirit be with them, they would feel that collective energy, that energy which was both of the natural force and that energy which they had built and added to that. That became a collective part of that spirit. So has the same thing happened with angels and that which you would call saints in some religions throughout the ages. Humans have focused their energies. You have in worship or in adoration, you have focused your energies on an individual or on an angel or that which you perceive as an archangel, and you have added your thoughts, your expectations to that intelligence. And that has strengthened it, has enhanced it, and built it up generation after generation. So if in a church, in a temple, in a synagogue, in a mosque, you are continually pushing this energy out into a perceived vessel, that vessel is containing that energy and building it, and it overflows continually from that. So when then someone calls upon that energy, all of that energy is there to flow to them or through them or for them. Now, what happens if you just create an angel? What if you just wish to create an angel? This is done. This is done in the practice of the meditators. It's done by some magicians. It is done by many of the aesthetics. They actually build an image of an angel. In their mind, they begin creating. They create. It's not that they set out always to do this, some do, but they create a force. They create an intelligence. Now, that intelligence will outlive them because when they are gone, that intelligence still exists. That is what you might call a rogue angel, an intelligence that now exists without a purpose. Now, when people try to focus angelic forces, and they usually do this through prayer or meditation, it calls upon that which is commonly known to all the people within the culture. For the people of whatever religion will have created or added to angels, and there is an expectation because the intelligence has very defined parameters. The religion or group of spiritual people believe this intelligence can do a particular thing. This intelligence can do another thing, and yet a third intelligence can do something else. So when they call upon that intelligence, it is expected that it can do certain things in a certain way. Now, here is where the danger of angels comes into existence, because there are those who mistakenly think that they can control the way something like this does occur. And what they will do is either try to create an angel or contact an angelic existence outside of those that are used in normal religious ways. And these people are practicing magic, and they are doing something very dangerous, because the problem is this: an angel has an intelligence, but it may have been created with a purpose. If you set an angel to do something, its limited intelligence is to do that which you have instructed it to do. That becomes its sole purpose if you think to direct it. The problem with that is the unseen consequences, because the intelligence doesn't tell it how to do it. Its only objective is to achieve an end goal. Now, when a human has only one objective, and that is to achieve an end goal, that human becomes very dangerous. But normally, their capacity for danger is limited by the society around them. However, when you release an angelic force to achieve an end goal, and you cannot contain how it will achieve that end goal, such becomes exceedingly hazardous. If you will stop and think of what has happened on your earth in times past when people have dabbled in this way, people like Aleister Crowley or Adolf Hitler, you see what the results are, because they may seek an end goal, but the horrors that can be released in achieving that end goal are just unfathomable. And they can be even greater than what mankind has to date seen. Now, how can you then create angels? Well, let us say this: when you sit and meditate on something, when you just focus on something that you want, you are creating an energy, an intelligence that can move. This is why it is far better not to be envious and not to lust after things, because if you do, you actually are setting things in motion, because angelic forces are just that, intelligent energies, but they are not directed except as you direct them, and the consequences, catastrophic as they might be, cannot always be controlled. Now, we have told you very clearly then that angels have bodies, yet not all angels have bodies. For as we have just spoken of, you are creating intelligent energies. These energies are outside of bodies. So now you have the angelic forces that dwell in things, in fact, are things. And now you have angelic forces that are just that, just raw, intelligent energy that is not in anything, but that can be focused or put in something, or that can move through something, including through a person. Now, what of you? Are you an angel when you die? No, you are not an angel, because you, although you are an intelligent energy, are something different. You are the very essence of the divine. Angels are not. Angels are created separate. They require energy, force from the divine to exist. So you can actually create an angel, you can give it life, you can give it force. You can keep it alive, you can allow it to go dormant. However, you are a spark of the divine. You are part of the divine. That is not to say that all things are not part of the divine, for they are. But what we are saying is that the very essence of the divine is humanity. This is the essence of the evolution of the divine. The evolutionary aspect of God is the evolution of humanity. So now, back to the whole angel issue. Then why do you not become an angel? Because you are already something greater than an angel. You are already something more. See, angels only exist to fulfill a purpose. You actually live, you create, you think, you aspire, you can actually choose and do, while an angel does that which it is directed to do. Now, someone will say, oh, well, was not Lucifer an angel? And did he not do something different from what was required? Well, no. This was an intelligence created to actually challenge all things in existence. Now you say challenge, to test, to try. What is meant by challenge, testing, and trying? Everything has to be challenged. Everything has to be actually exercised, formed. If you had no challenge in life, what would happen to you as a human being? You would be born. You would die. You would be born, you would die. No challenge. No challenge to crawl, no challenge to stand up, no challenge to walk, no challenge to talk, no challenge to feed yourself. So that means that the very force of challenge is a creative force that enables divinity. It is just as you think of with Kether and Shakma and Bina. You have to have the energy, you have to have form to hold and force. Without form and force, nothing can exist. Without challenge, there is no growth. So every angel has a purpose, and that purpose is served. So you call upon Raphael for healing, or you call upon Gabriel because you think Gabriel can do something specific for you. That is fine. You are challenged. You are a policeman or a firefighter, and you call upon Michael. That has been done for centuries. And for that reason, there is an intelligent energy there to respond. But that is not the limitation of energies. Now, sometimes people will call upon saints, and again, they have placed energies there. Sometimes people will think, oh, all of the current religions, they're all hypocritical and we want to do something different. And they will change to accept an older faith that they don't understand. That's something that they don't know about. And they will dabble in it. And then they will find a being or an entity or an angelic force that is supposed to be part of this religion. And they will, in some way, try to activate it by prayer, by meditation, by performing a ancient ritual that they don't really understand or that they've made up. And God forbid that they activate a force that they don't understand because they do not understand the cultural norms within which that force was used and the parameters within which that intelligent energy was used. And thus, they release something they don't understand, they don't expect, to gain a desired end, not knowing what kind of consequences they will set off in the meanwhile. Again, a good reason not to dabble in things that you do not understand. So, what exactly is an angel? An angel is an intelligent energy. Does an angel have a body? Some angels have bodies. All angels do not have bodies. All angels are capable of inhabiting a body or a form, or taking on a form if there is enough intelligent energy. Just as humans can, once they leave the body, if they so desire, take on a form. Some would call this ghost. Others would call that which is stuck in the lower realms of existence ghost. We are not even in that territory with what is being discussed here, for we are discussing only those energies that are manifest specifically with a purpose and separate from the creation of humanity. Now, let us look real specifically at cultures, because cultures have had different beings. The Aboriginal and Native cultures have often spoke of a spirit that would then create other spirits, perhaps animal spirits, but they conceive one great spirit. The cultures such as the Egyptians thought of gods, but when you start really looking at most of their gods, you'll see that they're talking about angelic forces. Again, with the Greeks and the Romans, you see the same thing. And of course, this is very evident with the Babylonians, from whence most of today's mythologies and understandings of angels are actually derived as winged creatures, sometimes with feathers, sometimes with skin. But when you stop and think about the actual understanding of angels, most of it comes from the ancient Babylonians. They had their own culture, their own beliefs, but they did not treat these creatures as gods, and they understood these spirits to have the ability to move about unencumbered by body. Hence, they were often shown as winged creatures, but today people think of that as an actuality rather than realizing that they were animating something unseen. People like to see things. The people like to have things look like them so they can understand it. So now angels all are little curly haired things, fairly sexless, sometimes fat and chubby, but always, for whatever reason, without whiskers. But this is just a perceived way of animating something, of making it understandable. This is not what angels look like. When angels are spoken of in some of the ancient scriptures, the word angel and messenger are sometimes interchanged. So if a person comes and talks to someone, they are called an angel. And then people later, translating and not understanding, make this into something that is totally different. So a person that would now, in the Native American or Indian tribes, be called a medicine person, might be called an angel because they came with a message. But now when people read that, what do they see? What do they think? They think, oh, some white-robed winged being must have come down from the heavens and delivered this message. It is hard for them to conceive of the idea that it might have been an oracle, a psychic, a prophet. What do you want to call it? You call it one thing in one day, and you call it another thing another time. In different eras, different words are acceptable. Okay, so is it a psychic? Is it an oracle? Is it a prophet? What is it? It does not matter. Humans have the capacity to go beyond their physical being, and they have the capacity to receive information beyond their physical being because they are divine. They are part of the divine. The divine flows through them. And as you certainly know, as science has proven, time is not linear. Linear concepts of time, well, that is for perception, but it is not real. And when the energies flow out of you, are you here? Are you there? All of these things are so subject to misunderstanding. And angels are amongst the most misunderstood because every religion wants to formate them so they can contain them in a little box and specify that they stand before their God. But the angels are forces that are outside of any one religion. It should be a clue to you when you see that every religion has sentient beings that are intelligent energies. They have things that they consider to be sentient beings that they call angels, or that you would call an angel. And yet, how is it that each religion can have these, and each religion say, oh, well, they come from the God that created them, and all of these religions think they have a different God. So those angels that were created must be different angels. So would you say that the angels that are within the planets, the consciousness in each planet, was a different consciousness for a Roman than it is for you? Was a different consciousness for a Greek than it was for a Roman? No, 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 that can't be. So then this means that there is a commonality, a thread that runs through all of these religions, besides the fact that all true religions teach one thing: love, and that love is the only true religion, and that love is the only true God. Yet people have, through the centuries, looked at angels and deitized them. They have often made the angels their gods, as did the Romans. But they aren't the only ones through the centuries that have done this. You even go back to the Egyptians, they made the angels their gods. Think of the Aboriginal people. Sometimes they made the angels their gods, but usually not. The Aboriginal peoples are one of the most misunderstood, for they believed in one divine creator. And actually, when they spoke of what you think of as their gods, they recognized them as the separate energies flowing from the one divine creator, that they would tap that energy, that facet of being, to enable them to do a specific thing, or to help them, or to protect them, or to protect their clan or their loved ones. This is one of those societal misunderstandings. It is very nice to always think that we in our society are superior to other societies. Yet it is not so. If you look today, you have the same superstition that you would decry. You say, you worship this faith or that faith, and you call upon this saint to help you, and you beg that angel to come and intercede for you and do this or do that. And oh, if you only repeat this prayer so many times, and then you turn and you go, oh, those ancient people were so superstitious. Now let me finish my 108 prayers today. Are you any better? Is there any difference? So we have covered very much about angels. Where did they come from? In the initial creation, what some scientists would like to call the Big Bang, all of evolution started and angels evolved out of that, just as did humanity, and evolved with it just as has God, or that which you like to call God. That is the birth of, or the creation of, the original angels. They were evolutionary. Angels have been manifested since as things have been created or come into being. As the molten ball that became the earth actually took form, and as various things occurred, angels' intelligences manifested. There was an energy that manifested that brought the life that you knew as dinosaurs. It then died. That angelic force is still existent. That angelic force can still be tapped. It isn't, but it could be. So you have angelic forces that are there existing, but are not used. Then you have angelic forces that slowly die. They lose their potency. So they can have a lifespan, but they also can sit indefinitely dormant. That is two very different things that can occur. So do angels die? Or can they have a limited lifespan, even if they don't meet your requirements for the definition of life? Yes, they can have a limited lifespan, but they can also go dormant and have an eternal lifespan, as much as you wish to think of eternity, for that is a whole nother question when a person says eternal or forever. Look up the definition. What is it? A long time. How long is a long time? A long time. Longer than you will be here. So for all practical purposes, it is infinite, even if it isn't, because it will last as long as creation lasts. How long will creation last? Oh, that's a question for you if you're going to say, well, angels are eternal. Well, creation will last until it folds in on itself. When will it fold in on itself? Well, no time soon, because everything is continually expanding and will expand. For eternity, of course, and then it'll all be over. So you now have seen how angels are created, how angels have a lifespan, how angels have a purpose. Now, let's talk about something a little more specific, something to you individually. If you wish to make use of angels, if you wish to use an intelligent force within your own life, an intelligent energy, there are basic instructions that you should follow. One is work within the culture in which you live. The culture in which you live will have specific intelligent energies that it utilizes for specific things, especially certain religions. Work within your chosen religion and utilize the angels, the intelligent energies of your religion, because they work within the norms that you can understand and that have parameters that will keep the unexpected consequences from occurring. If you pray within your specific faith for an angel to provide a specific thing, it will do so in a way that will normally not bring harm or unintended consequences. So that gives you a practical way to use it. Rituals build power. Rituals build energy. Rituals build force. Whether in a Hindu temple or whether in a synagogue or a Christian church, rituals build force, even to where you can feel it when you walk in and stand in certain locations. Go into a Buddhist temple. Here is an energy that you can feel, a sharp, electric, static energy. You will feel it. You will feel calm energies, especially around Marian symbology and statues. You must understand that these energies are different, that these energies are cultural, and these energies are according to the specific energies built by the worshipers. In Hindu temples, you will find spots of tremendous energies near the lingam and in other spots where people have actually focused their energies. This energy can be used. This energy you can bring to yourself. This energy you can use for your benefit. This energy is something that you would feel if you were to go where perhaps you would feel energy in a crystal shop. If you would go where you could stick your finger into a geode, if you are the least bit sensitive to energies, you can feel the static electric on those. If you go to a temple, a Buddhist temple will have that very same feeling. You will have a feeling more like what you would have with an irradiated crystal of quartz with perhaps gold in it if you were at a Marian statue. Crystals have different energies. They have different intelligent energies in them. They have different force. So it is with all of these different religions. So when you go to a temple and practice within your culture, that is a controlled energy that you are releasing, but it is also an energy that you are building. And this is where we started to explain. You build energies by worshiping, praying, meditating, singing, dancing. It's dancing. Now, a lot of the native and Aboriginal peoples dance to build energy. Other people pray to build energy. Many native peoples consider their dances to be prayers. They are prayers of motion. How is it then? You go to a church service, you go to a religious festival, and you participate in this. You are focusing your energies into that, into the being that is being celebrated, into the saint or the angel that is being honored. Each of your meditations, each of your prayers, each of your rituals continually puts energy into this. This is ever being charged, but when you discharge it, the energy doesn't just drain out and leave an empty battery. That is a loop, and the energy just goes back in. So as more people perform rituals, the energies are becoming ever and ever and ever stronger. And as they're used, they're not drained. They're just continually built and built and built and built. So now you have this powerful, powerful force. Now, let's pretend for just a moment that you've built this powerful force and that tomorrow something happens that everyone leaves that particular angelic force, the religion that utilizes that force. No one is left. Maybe a handful of people. That force will still be just as real and powerful for that handful of people. But when they stop using it, the force will still be there. But now, let's assume 100 years later, somebody comes back and says, oh, my great-great-grandpa used that force, I'll try it out. But they don't have the cultural understanding. Then that force becomes a hazard. It was a safe force to use as long as it was a force within the evolutionary cycle. But if you have evolved beyond that and you go back, unless you are aligned with the capacities. Now, here is a place where meditation actually becomes beneficial for those people who have the capacity to meditate, those people who have the capacity to tap into timeless time and develop an awareness beyond this limited physical being, to actually reach beyond this world and this understanding of the limited physical. Those beings can tap those forces. They can tap the forces of wind and fire. They can tap the forces of the intelligences that most people would find hazardous. Does that mean we would encourage you to run out and to play with angelic forces? No, no, no. So now we think we have answered most of your immediate questions about angelic forces. By no means has this been complete, for we could give you very practical details on how much is actually done. But we prefer to look at things from the mystical point of view. The Kabbalah should be approached from the mystical point of view. Idea of using everything in practical terms is sometimes a mistake. Sometimes it is better to allow things to be processed in the mystical, to be understood in the mystical, and to be used that way. Because the practical oftentimes becomes, when misguided, should we say, hurtful magic, and when misinformed, is totally injurious to the person actually performing or desiring what they wish to create. So we would say to you, rather, what you want to do, what you really want to do, is not try to create a situation, but rather to open your heart to love and allow, when it is beneficial, to exercise love, when it is beneficial to help humanity, allow the intelligent energies to flow through you, but stop trying to control the intelligent energy. Stop trying to direct them. Stop trying to tell them what to do. They have their intelligence. They have an end that they are meant to accomplish. Meditate and allow yourself to be an open vessel for those intelligent energies that were created in the beginning. And all of those intelligent energies flow simply for the divine, to create, to manifest, and to the benefit of humanity, to the benefit of all sentient beings, to the benefit of the earth itself. So with that, you may proceed as you will.
That is the beginning of the opening to the individuals who are here to ask questions. Please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. I will, however, start with two questions that I have that two individuals wrote in. Debbie in Virginia. And although this question has really already been answered, maybe you wish to add something. I have also tried to connect with angels. I would like to do healing and readings, but I have been unable to connect to them. Can you help me do so?
The best way to do this is within the understanding of the religion that you practice, and to meditate within the confines of that religion, and to pray within the confines of that religion, asking for guidance, asking for help, asking that energy to come to you and allowing it to do so. You do not want to force this, because you want to experience that which is beneficial, and to arouse the energies for which you are not prepared is not what you desire to do. This is just like when you meditate, people often think of opening all the chakras, and they think of wanting to have this Kundalini experience. before it is necessarily appropriate. Angels should be thought of as beings that can come to you through other people, through dreams, through visions, and on very rare occasion by manifestation. You may proceed as you will.
I have a question by someone called Doreen from Maryland, in Maryland. She has been here before and she asked the following. Questions were being taken a few weeks ago and I asked for healing. My request to you was for healing and it was granted. My illness numbers have remained the same and I'm still under treatment. I am wondering if there's anything that I need to do.
Healing is an interesting and precarious thing, for healing occurs via faith and via manifestation. Now, when a healer says to the person with a broken arm, raise your arm, and that person raises their arm, it will be healed. If that same person says, I can't raise my arm because it's broken, it won't be healed. So in short, what we are telling you is this: healing is in a way a two-edged sword. When a person is healed, doubts actually limit the healing. But now, here is where the two-edged sword gets interesting. Doubts can be temporary. The energy that is transferred when a healing occurs does not disappear because of doubt. It is simply eliminated from doing its work. It's shut out, but it stays with your being. It stays with you. So if you eliminate the doubt, then the healing can fully manifest. We will give you two examples. One, several years back, a woman came saying, I have cancer. I have been diagnosed with cancer. It is already throughout my body. I've got to go to a doctor's appointment now. Can you heal me? And healing was granted. She went to her doctors and they ran all of the tests and said, well, there's no cancer to be found anywhere in your body, in your blood, anywhere, but we still want you to take this treatment. And she said, no, that was in excess of a decade ago. And she is still cancer-free, despite having lost other family members to cancer previously and having had one battle with cancer previously herself. Now, you see what happened there. Take another instance, another woman. She had virtually no white blood count. And the same type of a situation would have occurred. She was to go see a doctor, but she had no faith. Another person wanted that individual to be healed. She was given the healing energies. She had no faith. She returned home, went to her doctors, was told everything was a total mess and that she had no white blood count, and was sent home for a week to have everything re-diagnosed. She went back a week later and they started diagnosing, took samples of blood, had the immediate same response of saying there is no white blood count. A few minutes later, drew more blood and everything was looking normal. And they said, this is not possible. What's happening? What was happening was that she panicked. She totally panicked. And then she thought, oh, but I was healed. And she let that moment of thought wipe out her doubt. And while there was no doubt, everything was made normal. Not to return because she might later have doubt, because once it is fixed, it is fixed. Now, let us tell you a story of another woman. A woman who a few years ago went to the hospital because her heart was giving her problems. Oh, who might that be? We will not say. But it should be said that it was a personal experience, that this was an instantaneous healing, and that the very experience of seeing that, knowing that, since you, Doreen, experienced this and saw this, should give you enough ability to just drop the doubt for a moment so you can accept that which you already have. Doubt is one of our greatest foes. You may proceed as you will.
I would like to go back to the element of angels. Could you give the orders of the celestial hierarchy and their tasks? We are all knowing about the cherubim, etc., and that they have different tasks. This is quite different from what you have just told. Is this a reality, or is this made up by mankind, or what exactly is it, and could you explain?
There are different orders of angels, powers. If you look at the planets, dominions, what are they? They are the collective consciousness, the intelligence that rules each set of peoples, nation. So the guardian angel, so to speak, of a nation is a dominion. So you have different orders of angels. You will see that the Catholic Rosary actually employs this to an extent, and this is very much employed or exploited in the basic prayer beads that are prayed to Saint Michael and the various orders of angels. The understanding, though, is limited because there they limit strictly to a certain type of angelic being, down to archangels and angels. But you've got to understand that nature forces, rivers, mountains, the wind, fire, lightning, these all have an intelligence that can be tapped. So when you start talking about orders of angels, are they made up? Some, but it is the way of understanding them. It's like saying, are the orders of plants made up? Well, we've divided them the way we can understand them. Are the orders of animals made up? You know, where do you put some things? How do you decide if something goes in one area or another area? Occasionally an animal is reclassified. Why? Because our understanding changes. Is our understanding of angels perfect? No, it's even less perfect, but it is fair to say that the classifications and orders are a good starting point. So they may be understood differently by different people. The prominent place where they are used today are in the hierarchies as delineated within Christian churches, not evangelical, but most specifically Catholic and Orthodox or Apostolic, and within Islam. Judaism does not pay as much attention to angels in the hierarchy in the way that the Islamic faith or the Christian faith does. However, they have a Kabbalistic understanding for those who have actually studied the Kabbalah that in some ways far exceeds the understanding within either Christianity or Islam. Now, you should understand that officially Christianity only really has named and recognizes a few angels or archangels, just a handful. Islam has a few others kind of off in the understanding, but in legend, they actually have more. And then Judaism has this understanding through the manifestation of the Kabbalah that is very accurate. And then Hinduism has the capacity with the various temples and the way they believe to build and create and often manifest intelligent forces. And Buddhism has created its own celestial realm of superstition, much as Buddha and Jesus would both have said, no, don't do that. The faiths that flowed from them both did that. So the hierarchy varies from religion to religion. And this gets back to what we have told you. This is why it is important for us not to say to you, this is the hierarchy, do it this way, but to say to you, rather, work within the confines of your religion and how you understand these angels to exist within your religion and what you understand their capacity to be. So you do not suddenly have unintended consequences released. You may proceed as you will.
One last question for anyone who has one. Sergey, yes.
Okay, regarding cyclones and the fury of cyclones, can you tell us a way we can pacify them, depower them, divert them, a prayer we can do? That's the basic question.
First, let's look at cyclones and storms as an intelligent energy. Now, it is true that if you were to go back to some of the more superstitious approaches to such, people would think of pacifying these entities. And that is not where we're going to go with this. Rather, we're going to tell you that storms truly are intelligent energies. Storm, hurricanes, cyclones, tornadoes, thunderstorms, they're all part of a greater collective. And that is actually just the energy, the storm energy. And that is part of the greater collective of the various energies of the earth, which are, by the way, being impacted by global warming. And as the earth itself is being injured, you could almost consider some of the storms that are occurring with more fervorance and more frequency to be an angry reaction or a painful reaction to what we are doing to the earth. So in very short order, if man works to reverse the damage he is doing to the earth by ceasing to pump out its life fluid, its blood, its oil, by ceasing to scrape and scratch its surface, by ceasing to change its atmosphere by continually emitting carbon into the atmosphere. It will, what you call pacify, but it will balance, is a better way to look at it, as karma, balance and counterbalance. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. It will bring balance back, which will calm the storms. However, storms are also a cleansing element. So even when the earth is perfectly in balance, storms occur in order to cleanse and purify. The electric running through the air with the lightning actually changes electrical balances. Storms are healthy. They are part of the earth. What is not beneficial is when the storms start becoming more harmful than helpful. So let's go for a moment to the intelligent energy. Now, you would think, oh, well, then does that mean that you can have an effect on storms through thought because they are intelligent energy, through prayer and meditation? The short answer is yes. The longer answer is, if you do this via legitimate meditation within the understanding of your religious faith, and you do it with love in your heart, it can be beneficial and helpful. If you do this simply to control the storm, and you are basically forcing your will upon nature, then beware of unintended consequences. You can make a difference. We would suggest that everyone try to make a difference by actually healing the environment. But even one individual, if they have a pure heart, can, through prayer and meditation, control weather. In fact, weather and storms are amongst the easiest thing for mystics to control, for those who are meditators and can focus their energies to control. They are one of the easier things you can protect against, whether it is allowing a tornado to jump over an area and wane itself in a lake or a river or the ocean, or whether it is blowing a storm out to sea, or simply standing in the midst of the storm untouched by the rain or the wind. How are these things possible? They are possible for those who have the blessings of energy that flow from meditation and prayer. This is one of those things that just happen when mystics are. But these are the things that other people look at and say, they can't happen. And the interesting thing is, as Rumi would tell you, it does not matter what religious modality that mystic is. All that matters is that they walk in love. Centered in love, they become the eye of the storm. They become the calm of the storm. And whether that storm be emotional distress, war, or weather, they walk through it untouched. You may proceed as you will. We leave you with blessings and with peace.
This is the end of this particular session. Thank you so very much for being with us, and we see you next time. Bye-bye.